I'm Julie Barkey with this Senate update. Governor Mark Dayton and legislative leaders are facing off over a budget target for education. It's the lack of funding for pre-kindergarten that has Governor Mark Dayton threatening a veto.
So I made very, very clear for the last several days of these negotiations what my number one priority is, and that's I had $700 million for E12 education, including funding for all-day pre-K, voluntary, so that any school district who doesn't want to do it, isn't ready to do it, whatever, is not required to do it. And then to come down and meet them halfway. I was at $700 million yesterday, and they came back at $400 million. And I had previously gone down to half-day pre-K, universal pre-K half-day and voluntary. And so I was at $700 million, they were $400 million, so I met them halfway, $550 million, and we'll see what they do with that. The indications are that they're not prepared to find that common ground, and then I'm not prepared to sign the bill. So that's where we are right now. We got 3 more days left in the session. We can see what happens, and this will might well change from hour to hour or minute to minute. But this comes down to what we're going to do right by our children and our future. They're proposing to leave $1 billion on the bottom line. With the revenues that are coming in now, that's already, if the economy stays on present course, $1.3 billion. There's plenty of money to do justice to E12, really at my $700 million proposal, but certainly at $550 million, including the specifications I put in the bill, which we can provide you, in addition to the 1.5% for the formula and the $173 million for universal pre-K half-day beginning in September of 16. So I await their response to that, and if they want to go into special session, that's their choice. But we can get this done still with some reasonableness and some willingness to, I said, compromise on their part. I've offered to meet them halfway, from $700 million down to $550, and we'll see whether they stay in the end zone.
Governor, as you
Yeah.
mentioned, leadership said that they are going to leave it to the discretion of the conference committee chairs. Have you reached out to those?
I'm sorry, what?
Leadership has stated that they're going to leave this to the discretion of the conference committee chairs. Have you reached out to the chairs?
Well, Commissioner Cassellius is here and my staff is here. They're going to do the direct contact with the conference committee members, and I'll be available around the clock to meet or discuss it with them. If I can be constructive. I mean, to tell them to, they have discretion, again, with inadequate funding is not a reasonable solution. That's been the classic Republican ploy with, going back to President Reagan. We'll put everything in one bucket and not provide enough money for it, and then you quote unquote get to decide how not to spend it and what you have to leave out. So I sympathize with the conferees. They're put in a situation here where they can't do justice to a whole range of things that I support and that some members of the Senate support, maybe even some members of the House. So it's just a setup.
Governor, is this worth a special session for you?
We don't have to have a special session if they're willing to be reasonable about this. I've said this consistently for weeks now. This is my number one priority. I've said all through the 5 days. And in fact, the last couple of days I said I'm not going to go below $700 million, which included 2% on the formula for each year, and universal all-day pre-K. And they implored me to come down and find something that was in the realm of the overall budget. And that's where I thought we were headed yesterday afternoon. So I had gone from full day to half day. I went from 2% to 1.5% on the formula, even though, again, there's enough money on the bottom line to do both of those. And again, it's voluntary for pre-K. And I don't expect to. I think I've been entirely reasonable and willing to meet them halfway, quote unquote. and you know, they just are not willing to do so. So if they're going to force a special session, it's their doing, not mine.